And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
I don't want you to think that the game revolves around combat. There's certainly combat in it, but it's more of a cat and mouse style game. Different characters will show up around the board, like here's Gandalf. He might show up in a location, and the good guys are trying to get to him, to get benefits from him. Different groups of different tokens will appear around the board that the good guys want to go get. They have quests that they need to go accomplish, while major bad guys, again with just really neat scopes, are walking around the board trying to catch the good guys unaware. Very difficult to kill. And then tokens will show up on the board that the bad guy, that the shadow player, that they may be monsters and they may not be. The good player does not know. So there's a bit of bluffing going on there. The whole game is basically going around different plot cards that the bad guy is playing. Let me show you an example of one of these plot cards. Here's the Rise of the Uruk-hai, and this plot card costs a certain amount to play, and it shows a certain amount that it costs to cancel by the good guys. But this is going to move a token, the red token of the bad guys, 3 spaces each turn, unless it's stopped, and it also gives the bad guy a special ability. These plot cards are placed over here on the board, and players are going around trying to cancel these plot cards because the whole game is revolving around the top here, where there's a race of tokens. 1 good guy token and 3 shadow tokens, and whoever's token is ahead at the end, and that person has fulfilled one of their hidden objectives, they've won the game. And these hidden objectives sound interesting, but it's all about this race. It's all about moving around the board, collecting, I almost want to say clues, because it has a very strong feeling to Arkham Horror. But the whole game really works together like a giant symphony, everything just complementing one another, and players have to determine where to best put their resources. Combat is a really neat feature of the game. At different points in the game, you'll be fighting enemies. Maybe a normal enemy, like the Cave Troll here, or maybe one of the main enemies, like the Witch King or such. But if you look at these enemies, you'll notice they have different stats on them. Fortitude, Strength, Wisdom, and then maybe a special ability. And then there's the symbol there, that ring of dots. The red dots mean melee, the blue dots mean ranged. So you can see the Cave Troll is much more about close combat. Then let's say he's fighting Argalad. You can see Argalad is much more about ranged combat. So they both have their own decks, and so at the beginning of this battle, let's say they're fighting each other, the Fortitude of Argalad means he can draw 5 cards into his hand for this battle. He has a choice now to add points from his agility to his strength, or to adding them more cards in his hand. So let's say he says, I'm going to add 1 agility, which gives me another card in my hand, and I'll add the other 2 agility to my strength, giving me a strength of 7. Wisdom's used in the game, but it's used for movement, so we're not going to worry about that right here. So when characters are fighting each other, basically they're both playing a card from their hand at the same time. So let's say, for example, here's the 2 cards that were played. And the Cave Troll plays this block card, which means it does no damage to the other person, but has 4 shields there and blocks up to 4 points of damage from the enemy's attack. Here, Argalad, he attacks and does 1 spot of damage, but this card cannot be canceled, but it is still blocked, and the defense of this card can't be reduced below 2. So basically, no one does damage to each other in this situation. However, the Cave Troll has used up 2 of his strength. His strength set's 8. So he can only use 6 more strength in this battle, while Argalad has used none of his strength. So the next card here, the Cave Troll plays a 1, and Argalad plays a fall back. They both do 1 damage, but they both have 1 shield, so those are blocked. However, the Cave Troll says, next round, if your opponent plays a ranged card, it's canceled. And next turn, if your opponent plays a melee card, it's canceled. So you can see that they go after each other in such a way, and the cards will, you have this feeling of going back and forth as you attack one another. So then the Cave Troll plays a ranged attack, while Argalad plays a melee attack, something they're both forced to do. So here the Cave Troll does 2 damage, but this parry says gain +2 defense if your opponent plays a melee card. It's not a melee card, so Argalad is going to take 1 hit point of damage, while the Cave Troll is blocking this. Besides, this reduces your opponent's printed damage to 0. So actually Argolat is going to take 2 damage. I really don't want this to come across as confusing. This is actually a very simple matter. Battles take place very quickly. I just think it's neat how you're playing cards, going back and forth, and once you've reached your strength, you're done, and you sit there as your opponent wails on you, and if one of you dies, fine. Otherwise, combat can continue on a future round. I like this game a lot. It is not one I'm going to play all the time because it's a fairly long game. It's also complex. I played it with some guys and they said, well, that was a lot of fun, but wow, there was a lot going on. And there really is. I sat down, went through the rule book, set everything up, and then I understood how to play it, but it was intense. But once I understood it, it does make sense. And it's very thematic and it's really neat. As the Shadow player, I really felt like I had to play my hardest against the heroes to stop them at any given point, and the back and forth and the different styles, playing the Shadows completely different than playing the heroes. It's not a war game, but neither is it some push cubes around boring game. It's really thematic, very possibly one of the best games of the year. If you have the time to play a lengthy beast of a game as this one, definitely check it out.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.